How are you, friends? Thank you for joining us today. We're pumped, we're happy, we're glad to have you with us and sharing some important concepts today. Today we're going to share a concept shared by Dr. Stephen Covey from his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The last habit, sharpen the saw. Sharpen the saw is a metaphor where the saw represents our physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional sides of our being, that if we neglect it and not take care of it, it becomes an ineffective instrument. Imagine you're walking through the woods and you find someone who is working feverishly to chop down a tree with an axe. You walk up to them and you ask them, well, what are you doing? And they answer back, I'm chopping down this tree for the last 6 hours. Can't you see I'm working? And you intuitively answer, why don't you take time to sharpen the saw? And the answer comes back, I'm too busy. Now that answer would seem ridiculous, but truly, how many of us are working at such a feverish pace? We are exerting ourselves to the point where we neglect some very important sides of our being. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share some simple concepts on how maybe you can find some time to become more effective, that you can sharpen your saw. Thank you for joining. So the first aspect is going to be the physical aspect. Sharpening the blade of your physical being ensures that your body has the strength and vigor it needs to take on life's demands. If you're tired and sick all the time, you're not going to be very productive, no matter how much harder you work. So take time to take care of your body and make it a priority in your life. At a minimum, you should focus on some exercising, eating right, and getting enough sleep each night. These things can go a long way in keeping you physically sharp. So begin there. Your spiritual side generates a sense of your purpose in life. It's the core of who you are and why you do what you do. Not sharpening this part of the blade can leave you feeling a little cynical, burned out, and listless. We know it's easy to neglect this spiritual life because, well, it's kind of spiritual. Concrete day-to-day stuff takes up so much of our life and attention that the spirituality sometimes gets pushed to the side. Eventually the neglect can catch up with us. It happens when you're just kind of in bed, scrolling through at Instagram wondering, what am I doing with my life? Or you lose your job. And these are moments when having a sense of purpose, a sense of strength, a solid core foundation of values comes in handy. Spirituality can ultimately be just as practical as any other area in your life. Now the third aspect is going to be our mental aspect of sharpening the saw. Many workers in this modern economy do largely what we call mind work. It constantly kind of dulls the mental saw. So doing more mental work in our leisure time, even if it seems like we're sharpening, doesn't really seem like it's refreshing often. Most people just want to turn off altogether, but I can tell you that rejuvenation can be found in a change to one's activity rather than turning it off. I have a quote here from Winston Churchill, and he says, "Change is the master key. A man can wear out a particular part of his mind by continually using it and tiring it. The tired parts of the mind can be rested and strengthened, not merely by rest, but by using other parts of his mind. It is not merely enough to switch off the lights which play upon the main and ordinary field of interest. A new field of interest should be illuminated, should be created. It's only when new cells are called into activity that the relief, repose, and refreshment are given." That's great advice. So when you want to refresh yourself mentally, focus on something different. Don't shut off. By using another part of our brain, we can actually rest the parts that we're using very heavily in our work. So the last part, the fourth of sharpening the saw, is to focus on our social and emotional. We're social animals. We know it's true. Even introverts can benefit from rubbing shoulders with others. Studies have found that socializing can reduce stress, can reduce the feelings of depression, and we know that interacting with other human minds is a way to learn new ideas and refine our own. And socializing just tends to synergize with sharpening our mental blade and our physical and spiritual. So there are a few suggestions. Among many, we can go out to lunch with a friend, write a letter to a loved one, host poker night, dump talks at people from our life. There's just so many things that we can do. Spend time with our family, go out on a date, make sure we have date night. That's a good one, guys. So this is the fourth habit. Now, how do we find time to do these things? This is where we're going to go from there. Thank you. Okay, friends, so this is where it gets very easy, sometimes almost elementary. There's an old saying that says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Today, especially in this modern society, we have so many tools at our disposal that it would seem that we would be more productive than ever. However, we can sometimes become very distracted. So first, if we want to find more time to sharpen the saw and develop ourselves, I want you to look at your daily activities, mainly around your use of the electronic media, around how you use your time potentially when you're traveling, and then how you use your time for entertainment. So let's first talk about the electronic media. The electronic media such as the telephone or social media and those type of things, we know that there is an epidemic. There's addictions around that. These software packages, these social media applications are designed to keep our attention. And how many times do we mindlessly just kind of scroll through, waiting for the next like or for validation for something that we have posted? So it's simple. Take time to turn off. There's even in certain applications you can actually track your time usage, and I think it would shock you. I've done that myself. It would shock you. It will shock you to see how much time that you are investing in social media. 5 minutes here, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes add up over time to hours a day. So take time to do that and do what you can to minimize your usage on social media. Even set a time possibly that you're only going to do it within a certain time frame. I promise you, if you do it, you're not going to miss much of it. The aspect that I'd like for you to contemplate is, how do you use your time when you're traveling and commuting? In case you haven't guessed it, I'm an absolute enthusiast about YouTube. It used to be many years ago, it used to be the cassette recorder. I used to be able to pop that Zig Ziglar tape or that Tony Robbins tape in. But the estimates are that if you commute 20 to 30,000 miles a year, that if you use your commute time, that you literally can acquire during that time the equivalent of 2 to 3 years of college education. You can learn anything that you want. You can learn things about developing yourself spiritually, learning a language, sales training, personal development. There's just so many things that you can learn, especially now with the Bluetooth technology and your phone. And obviously, you want to make sure you're driving safely, but you can listen to these things and fill your mind with the good, the clean, the pure, powerful, and positive stuff that is going to get those creative juices flowing in your brain and get you thinking, rather than listening to the news and all this other stuff that just may be depressing. So again, that's a second opportunity for you to develop yourself. So the last aspect in finding time for personal development, for sharpening the saw, is to consider how you use your time for entertainment. The average person does not plan usually around entertainment. We come home, we turn off, as I had alluded to, the mental side of it, we completely turn off and we sit in front of the TV without any planning. And it's usually around television, to be honest with you. We sit in front of some of the cable or the satellite or any of the other streaming softwares, and sometimes we'll pass 30 minutes just looking for a movie to watch. I have a suggestion for you. Take time at the beginning of the week to look through and find entertainment that you absolutely know you would like to watch. Pre-record it, and then decide to watch it at a specific time. Once you've watched it, turn it off and do something more productive with your time. How about spending time and playing a board game with your family, or talking with a spouse instead of them sitting in the lounge chair over here and you're sitting here, you're both on the cell phone trying to watch TV at the same time. Look at each other face to face and talk. Pick up the scriptures. Pick up a self-motivation book. Spend 30 minutes working out. You will find hours of time. I have a friend of mine that tells a story. He literally became a millionaire because his family stopped watching TV. They had decided that they were going to only watch TV together as a family if they had planned it together. And he said because they were such terrible planners, they never really watched TV. And as a result, he started doing other productive things. He started thinking about some problems that could be solved with his work. He developed some things, worked with someone that was in software, and 5 or 6 years later, he developed an application that revolutionized his industry and niche. These things are real stories, and they're real techniques. As always, I encourage you to contemplate the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and positive, and do things in your life that's going to, again, make space for you to think more abundantly. That's going to create space for you to know that you have greater power. As always, thank you for joining Motivation Mastermind. If you do these things, I promise you, I'll see you at the top. Thank you, friends. We conclude a session of Sharpening Your Saw. Your comments, your shares, and your likes are lifeblood to us. We appreciate everything that you do, all of your patronage, as well as your positive remarks and comments. Please stay with us. We'll always strive to bring you content at least once a week. We'll see you at the top.